Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this past week we had a lot of exciting news with the new launch of the Apple Vision Pro in the United States, as well as updates about iPhone 16, new iPads, and much more. This is your Apple News Update for the week of February 5th, 2024. Now, Apple had its earnings call this past week. You can see that online. You can actually listen to it where Tim Cook goes over some of the details, and they did better than expected. Apple brought in $119.6 billion in revenue or $33.9 billion in profit after all of their bills and research. So lots of different updates there with sales, with services, and much more. And also during the call, Tim Cook said they're putting a tremendous amount of time and effort into AI, and the more details would be available later this year. So that's expected with Siri and maybe iOS 18 and much more, as we're expecting a major revamp to the overall operating system. Now, with the release of Apple Vision Pro, Apple actually released a ton of support documents as well. So we have user guides as well as support documents, not only introducing it, explaining how to use it, getting work done and much more, but also if you have some issues with it. So if you picked up an Apple Vision Pro, you want to learn more about it. Of course, I'll be doing more videos about it, but there's a lot to read now. Things if maybe you're having issues with audio, much more, and even setting it up, or if getting rid of it and sort of wiping it and resetting it. Lots of things to go along with their new spatial computer. Now, Tim Cook compared the launch of the Apple Vision Pro to the iPhone launch or the Mac launch. I'm not really sure I would say the same thing. I think this is maybe a replacement for an iPad in the future, something along those lines, but it's definitely not a replacement for an iPhone in its current form. It feels very much like a developer unit to me. There's some bugs and more. I'll have a full review a little bit later, but I've been using it regularly. I've edited a couple videos in it. It's a great device, but still has some shortcomings that will probably be fixed in future versions. Now, also, if you want to try out a Vision Pro, you can sign up for an appointment in the Apple Store in the United States. You can see Aaron P613 on Twitter, or X, actually signed up, and this is what it looks like in the United States. It's available now at any Apple Store if you want to sign up. The final thing with Apple Vision Pro is a developer strap is now available if you're a developer. You can sign in to the developer website, and for $2.99 you can purchase this to help you either restore the device, maybe debug it, try some of your apps through it so it's not all wireless. So it would replace this strap here, and if you take off the actual light shield there, you'll see there's a little hole there. You can use a SIM card ejector tool and actually pop this out and pop the whole side piece out and then connect it to your Mac. So you can restore it that way if you're having issues or wanting to try out different software that you're writing, things like that. And you can also restore this through an iPhone, apparently. So there's a lot of different things we're learning about it. I'm not sure I'm going to get the developer strap because I don't really need it for developing apps, but maybe for restoring. Let me know if you'd want to see that in the comments below. Now, Phil Schiller of Apple this week had an interview with Fast Company and talked about the risks of third-party app stores and sideloading. That's something they have to comply with in the European Union, and they're being forced to do. And according to Phil, he said that these new regulations, while they bring new options for developers, also bring new risks. There's no getting around that. So we're doing everything we can to minimize those risks for everyone. So what they're doing is making it very difficult and making the barrier to entry very difficult if you want to be a developer with third-party app stores and more. They may have to change this as the European Union may not allow that, but either way, that's what they're doing for now. Also, if you're a developer, as of February 2nd, you can sign up for a consultation to help explain all of the new development changes for the EU with sideloading, default browsers, NFC payments, and more. So it's pretty confusing the way they have a payment structure and much more. Now, as Apple devices age, such as this original iPad, this is a first generation, as they age, Apple makes them obsolete. They no longer support them, and that's now true for the last version of the MacBook that actually had a CD drive or super drive from 2012. The 13-inch MacBook is no longer a product that Apple will support and is considered obsolete. If you still need a CD drive or super drive, you can still buy this separate one that you plug in. You will need an adapter since it's USB-A, but it still works. It's a super drive that Apple still supports. It's an official Apple product and works if you need it. But most devices don't really use them anymore. Let me know if you still use CDs and DVDs in the comments below. Now, I did want to mention the weekly Apple deals like I do every week, and the first one has to do with AirPods Pro 2. They're back down to $189.99 on Amazon, sold directly by Apple. So if you wanted to pick some up, they're now reduced again by over $50. Also, AirPods 3 are reduced down to $139.99, so still a pretty good deal. And if you wanted an Apple Watch SE 2 is down to $189. So if you wanted the second generation SE, as well as there's AirTags discounts and Beats Studio Pro discounts as well. I'll link them all in the description below if you want to check them out. And if I find anything else with iPads or MacBook, I'll be sure to let you know there as well. Now, iOS 17.4 Beta 2 is expected this week. Now, it's possible it could be another week, but I think at this point it will probably be as soon as tomorrow. Possibly tomorrow or Wednesday, we should see that update, which should bring some new features, refinements. Hopefully, we'll see some things that we weren't expecting. Maybe we'll finally see what sideloading looks like. There'll be some new options. We'll have to wait and see, but that's what we're expecting. Apple is expected to release iOS 17.4 to the public by March or maybe mid-March at this point, so they have to comply with that law in the European Union. One other thing I wanted to mention is tvOS 17.4 Beta 1 is now mentioning something called Home OS. This was found by Aaron P613 on Twitter, and you can see it here. So it looks like Home OS could be something that's on iPads, maybe that HomePod that's been long rumored with a screen on it. But either way, I would love to see a way to better control our home, as the Home app is okay, it's just not great. So it seems a little bit convoluted. Maybe it could be a little cleaner and more organized. So hopefully we'll see something like that very soon. Now, when it comes to the next iPhones, Apple continues to partner with Qualcomm on using their modems until at least March of 2027 now. They have to use their 5G modems because they have some proprietary components that they have patents on that Apple actually has to license to use. So Qualcomm's making those. When they had Intel before, it just wasn't that great. Apple is rumored to be working on their own sort of modem for their device, but so far they haven't been able to do that. Also, iPhone 16 is not expected to be a major upgrade this year, again, according to Ming Chi Kuo. We've heard this before, but this time multiple people are saying it won't have any significant changes as far as the overall design. It will look very familiar to what we already have with a titanium frame. The addition will be with a capture button. Replacing basically where the millimeter wave button is, there'll be a touch-sensitive capture button to maybe capture video and photos, and then they'll move the millimeter wave antenna to the other side. Also, we're expecting some minor camera upgrades to help maybe with spatial video and audio, maybe 8K, which would help with that, and then also slightly larger displays. So, of course, we'll get upgraded chipsets inside, but we'll go from 6.7 inches to 6.9 inch and 6.1 inch to 6.3 inches on the Pro model. So a little bit bigger, probably just because they're able to shrink the bezel a little bit. Of course, that processor upgrade will help, but I think the big focus will be on iOS 18 and AI this year. It's said to be sort of a big upgrade, one of the biggest ever, if not the biggest ever, so hopefully that means a full redesign. I talked about that a little bit last week as well, and also some things I'd like to see. Let me know what you want most from iOS 18. I'm hearing mostly people just want split view or some sort of redesign to refresh everything along with the control center. Now, as far as Apple Watch gets upgraded every year, and we're getting some new cases and bands probably for the spring very soon. It looks like we've got a couple new colors so far that have leaked called Emerald and Navy Blue, and it looks like those will be available probably within the next couple months, maybe around March or something around that point. It could be to go along with that iPad event or Mac event in March. We're expecting an event in March or at least some sort of major announcement for all of the iPads. I've mentioned this a little bit before, but we're expecting the iPad Pro to get a major update to 13 inches, as well as an iPad Air at 12.9 inches. So we're expecting some major updates there with OLED displays on the Pro models, updated specs, and maybe even MagSafe to help charge it. So those are things we're probably expected to see around, and you'll see the text just changed from dark to light. There it goes as I rotate it there. But we're expecting some major updates there, and Apple may even be working on a foldable to replace maybe the smaller iPad mini as far as 2026 to 2027. So they could be working on some sort of foldable like that. We know they are working on them. We've seen patents for them, but at this point we haven't seen anything from Apple that's public as far as foldable devices. Some people even hint it could be an iPhone that folds in half, but again, we'll have to wait and see. But the iPads should be next, along with a new MagSafe keyboard and much more. So I'm looking forward to that, and they may be able to make it, hopefully out of titanium, make it a little bit more rigid, but the price is expected to increase as well. So that's a little bit of a downside if it does have some major spec bumps. iPad Air is also expected to get a little bit of a bump up in specs, where it's not expected to change much from what we have with this M2 version version with the 15-inch and 13-inch, it's expected to basically get an M3 processor instead of M2. So if you already have an M2 version, I wouldn't expect to upgrade. I probably won't upgrade this one. It's plenty fast, does the job, and they're still using the M2 chip in Apple Vision Pro. So all of those things are expected this year. Not a ton of news other than what we had with Apple Vision Pro this week, but lots of exciting things to expect, hopefully with iOS 18. Maybe we'll finally get a revamped version of iPadOS, since that's what Vision Pro is sort of built on. It could use some updates here as well. Vision Pro works great, but it definitely has some bugs. Sometimes it freezes and locks up, and I'd love to see some of those things fixed with some updates very, very soon. Also, one thing I didn't mention, we could see an iOS 17.3.1. We have no mentions of that, at least online at this point, as far as overall statistics or anything where we're seeing in analytics, but we could see that before the release of iOS 17.4. That would address some small concerns we have, whether it's security, bug fixes, and more. So hopefully we'll see that, as Apple stopped signing previous versions very recently. So iOS 17.2.1, 17.2, you can no longer downgrade to. So based on that, we could see a small update very soon. Now, if there's anything else you'd like me to cover in these weekly news updates, let me know in the comments below. I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.